What's up, team? This is Frank, and...
Come on, my intense protege. Let's go save the world.
And this is a quick and dirty review of L.A.NOIRE, the VR case files. You'll start your adventure here. This is 1947 Los Angeles, and you play as LAPD officer Cole Phelps, who once served in the US Marines. The game can be divided into 3 phases: driving, interrogating, and detecting. The game plays a lot like a frat house initiation, where you'll have to suffer and struggle at the start in order to reap the benefits of playing the game later on. I guess that sounds like a metaphor, but here, let me explain. The driving is a lot like trying to drive an old-timey car with a futuristic GPS and no rear and side mirrors. That's not a metaphor, that's actually what the game is like. Not having mirrors meant I had to constantly crane my neck 180 degrees to see what the traffic and pedestrians around me were doing. This may sound like a deal breaker, but as long as you drive fast enough, no one will be in your blind spot. In the world settings, you can reduce the population, which was a real godsend as I was learning, but at the start, I straight up hated driving. I was smashing cars and crushing people while my partner insulted and belittled my abilities. But remember, this is just the initiation. Once you've selected your preferred driving options and give it some time, you'll eventually be racing through LA like Lewis Hamilton of Formula 1 fame. If for some reason you don't end up liking or can't handle the driving sequences, then you can exercise your right to use this warp, which will skip the driving altogether. There's also an option to skip scenes that you failed at too often, like maybe you had trouble during this heart-stopping race with a fleeing criminal. Car chases seem to be designed so that you can't really overtake the enemy. They're always just out of arm's reach, so that your only job is to keep pace until you reach the ending point, which triggers a cutscene. Honestly, give the driving portion of the game a chance. Yeah, the initiation is rough, but eventually I found the driving to be one of the most immersive and intense portions of the game. Okay, so the interrogations are a lot like a coin flip with 3 options, and sometimes a few more options. That's not a metaphor. You see, often you will take suspects in for questioning when you have enough evidence. You'll be given 3 options: be a good cop, bad cop, or straight up accuse the suspect. Eventually I found out that all the characters have preferred ways of being treated. If you select an ideal option, you will hear an audible cue and sometimes get an achievement, which makes you feel really good. However, picking any other option rewards you with awkward silence and a suspect who berates you for being wrong 66% of the time. The game features some really amazing animated faces, which allow you to read their verbal and non-verbal cues as you decide how to proceed in the questioning. However, there were times where I had to restart an interrogation or an entire case because I failed to get a confession or important clue to follow up on. And my frustration was exacerbated by the fact that I can't seem to skip cutscenes or dialogue. Although this sucked, remember, this is just the initiation. I definitely got better at reading the clues later on. And playing a case more than once often helps, since you'll remember what you did wrong last time. The detective portion of the game is a lot like being Geralt of Rivia using his Witcher sense to find clues. That's not a metaphor. You see, some of the clues can be really difficult to find. It's very easy to miss some small object or detail. I get that real detective work is more difficult and tedious than this, but spending 20 minutes walking in circles desperately looking for the last clue while my partner intonates that you missed something and should hurry the heck up wore me down quickly. To top things off, some of the clues can be buggy, which casts a lot of confusion and doubt on where to look. Like, take this scene for instance. I actually walked up to this portrait and ran my fingers along it while I looked directly at it. Nothing happened, so I moved on. But after a half hour of searching, my partner kept telling me that I was missing something. So I went back and reviewed everything I could possibly interact with. Well, lo and behold, the photograph all of a sudden gave me a clue. As it turns out, I personally knew everyone in the photo, and I was actually in it. Why wouldn't the game give me this prompt the first time I looked at it? Sometimes the game requires you to tap on or look at an important clue in a very specific way in order to proceed. Luckily, I figured out a solid strategy for avoiding this problem in the future. You see, when you use the blink ability, a small reticule pops up where you're pointing. If the object glows yellow, this means that you can either blink towards it to use it as cover during a gunfight, interact with it as a potential clue during an investigation, or quickly travel past it while exploring. Now, if the clue is too far away, your Witcher sense, or detective sense, won't pick it up. However, if the clue is close enough, it will glow, but it may be a false positive, like these things I spied over here. Now, if you get real close, false positives will cease to glow, allowing you to ignore them, while real clues will continue to shine. The only advice I can give you is to get close and scan as much of the area as you can. Also, make sure to solicit advice from your partner, as they will often let you know if you forgot something in a previous scene. And that's it. That's everything you need to know about L.A.NOIRE. In the end, the game affords you with a well-written, immersive, impressive, and massive world with some bugs and infuriating experiences, especially early on. The game tries its best to provide you with a slew of options with regards to locomotion, so that everyone should be able to find some combination they prefer. And the ability to blink up and down stairwells and into your car were really smart conveniences. But for a game which relies on careful and comprehensive searching, I became really frustrated when a bug or imperfect viewing angle prevented a clue from being registered despite my tenacious attempts. But like I said, the initiation's really rough. This game will bend you over and paddle you often, daring you to quit and reminding you that admission comes with a high cost. So I encourage you to stick it out. Once my backside was calloused enough to tolerate the excruciating pain of failure and restarting events, I became completely completely captivated and excited to drive around and see what was next. If you're looking for a game with careful searching and piecing together of clues, increasingly difficult boxing fights, shootouts where you snap to cover while picking off foes, driving around living, breathing cityscapes, and the impressive storytelling that has become synonymous with Rockstar games, you're really gonna love L.A. Noire. If you're looking for an arcadey game with non-stop action and hate repeated dialogue, reviewing evidence, and missing achievements just because you didn't ask the right questions, then you'll want to pass on this game.